Greetings to all. Welcome to another episode of Doctors In powered by Medibis TV. Today's our topic is endocrinology and treatments. Endocrinology is a branch of biology and medicine dealing with the endocrine system. It is diseases and its specific secretion known as hormones. To know more about endocrinology and its treatment methods, today we have with us Dr. Mohan Shenoy, endocrinologist, GG Hospital, Gokulam Medical College, Trivandrum. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Krishnapriya.
Doctor, our first question is, could you please explain what is endocrinology and please explain the scope of the field in more detail?
Endocrinology is a branch of modern medicine which deals with the science of hormones. Hormones are special chemical messengers produced from endocrine glands. These are located in several areas in the body. They include pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenals, then of course the bone and the liver. So these are special hormones which are measured in labs, and these labs perform assay techniques. So why endocrinology is important to know? Because these hormones regulate the various important processes in the human body. As we know, in biology, there are various newer developments occurring. Endocrine science has evolved across the last 100 years. The major hormone is, of course, insulin, thyroxine, and, the growth hormone. Research is still going on. In modern day, we are not yet sure whether every hormone has been totally discovered. So that question is very relevant. In modern day medicine, the role of endocrinology is very important and it is diverse in origin, which is why endocrine centers training good quality endocrinologists are always welcome. So to conclude the question, endocrine science is the hormone science and it includes measurements of hormones, providing treatment. The beauty of this is that treatment can be curative and rare diseases can also be diagnosed, and this can be life-saving as well.
Doctor, could you please explain glucose control and role of medications?
Okay, so what you have asked me is regarding diabetes. So diabetes is actually a cause of chronic hyperglycemia, which means the glucose in the body gets circulated from the liver. It goes, and hormones are like pancreas produces insulin, then C-peptide, then there is also a hormone called glucagon. So these control the glucose and how it goes into the cells. So then it goes to the tissues. It includes muscles, brain, heart, kidney. So all these organs are producing other substances as well. So in a nutshell, when glucose goes, it is called metabolism. So what happens? Glucose metabolism, many hormones are regulating, not only insulin. There is a growth hormone. There is also cortisol. There is also the male and female sex steroids. So what happens? Diabetes is a chronic hyperglycemia, and the main factor is hyperglycemia is characterized by fluctuations of glucose control. So the available medicines in the market are 4 in number. One is to control the liver function, that is metformin, metabolism of the liver also. Secondly, we have got insulin. Insulin is a hormone which is taken as injections. Third medicine is called SGLT2 inhibitors. So SGLT2 means sodium glucose reabsorption inhibitor. And the fourth category are special hormones acting via the gut pathway. So besides these, there are insulin secretagogues, increased insulin secretion. So basically, I will not like to take much on this question, just to focus that establishing good glucose control is the aim of diabetes management. We don't want the glucose to be too high or too low. So we have to maintain a euglycemia. This is why endocrinologist managing glucose control is also known as glucocrinology. Diabetes is a chronic disease, and this chronic disease needs to be managed in a very planned manner. This is because diabetes can cause multiple complications. The complications of diabetes are classified as microvascular and macrovascular. So the job of an endocrinologist is to identify the glucose regulating hormones and whether these conditions can be readily rectified, and finally to screen these complications. So once these complications like retinopathy, nephropathy, or cardiac complications are found out, they can be managed in an interdisciplinary manner. This is called glucocrinology. So endocrinologist who manages diabetes can holistically manage diabetes to control the complications, because glucose control can ensure euglycemia. We can avoid the highs and lows, and we can have a steady glucose direction. The medicines available in the market are basically focused on controlling the pathophysiology. Pathophysiology means diabetes and how the complications are progressing. So, my dear friends, the message is very clear. Whenever we manage diabetes, we have to make sure we continue the follow-up. Telemedicine is one of the beautiful technologies in which the medical expert can discuss and the patient also benefits in a distance manner also. So try to utilize it whenever possible, because diabetes is a killer disease. We know nowadays glucose control is important in even COVID management as well. HbA1c or glycated hemoglobin is the measure of the glucose contained within the hemoglobin over the last 3 months. So HbA1c control means diabetes has been well managed. It is an index of the control of the complications also. Aggressive diabetes control is also harmful, which is why the cutoff is accepted as 6.5 to 7.5. So it's expressed as percentage, and various labs have different techniques, which is why again endocrinologist consultation will help you decide which assay technique is ideal to measure HbA1c. So whenever you go for the diabetes checkup, make sure HbA1c is within the target of 6.5 to 7.5 based on the disease duration and type of activity which you are doing.
Doctor, as you mentioned before, the thyroid. Could you please explain thyroid health and how is approach to thyroid nodules and cancer?
It's a very relevant question, because after diabetes, we are finding more of thyroid in our practice. So everyone knows that thyroid is a butterfly-shaped organ in the neck, and it produces the hormone called thyroxine. It's a very simple hormone, but the action is very complex. It goes via the thyroid, it goes into the blood circulation, and it acts on every organ in the body, including the brain. When the child is growing, the brain is maturing. When the child has grown already, the height is maintained by the bones. After that, thyroid metabolism continues as a child grows into adult. And a female needs reproduction period also, thyroid hormone is important. And every stage of life, in old age also, thyroid controls every metabolism in the body. And we know hair fall is one of the major complaints which a thyroid patient faces. Coming to your specific second part of the question regarding approach to thyroid nodules and cancer. Thyroid nodules are small substances in the neck. They are called lumps. And when nodules are increasing more than 1 centimeter, they need evaluation. When thyroid blood in the blood is different from the circulation, we do ultrasound scan. Ultrasound scan captures the structure of the thyroid gland. It is called architecture. So there are 2 lobes of the thyroid, and just like a butterfly, there are many blood vessels also supplying the thyroid. So in ultrasound scan, when we can identify a nodule, we look at the type of nodule. It may be a single nodule, it may be multiple nodules, and multiple nodules can have lymph nodes also. So the good ultrasound will help you to understand what type of a thyroid nodule is coming. Every thyroid nodule may not have disturbance in the thyroid blood supply also, or even the blood in the blood circulation also. The thyroid levels may be normal in some thyroid nodule patients, which is why when we find some abnormal thyroid nodule, we need to go for a ultrasound guided FNAC. Once FNAC is done or fine needle test is done, we can identify a tumor. The good point is that when we go for a surgery, that is only in 10% of cases, the surgery itself is curative. That means the thyroid operation will cure the person out of cancer. It is nearly 95% cure, unlike many other cancers. And ultimately, follow-up is needed because after removal of the thyroid nodule, surgery, it is either a total thyroidectomy or a partial thyroidectomy. It needs to get lifelong thyroid supplementation. So the question I hope is answered. The thyroid hormones are very crucial in every part of a person's lifespan. And when you have a thyroid nodule, you need to evaluate in many other ways, just including ultrasound and FNAC.
Doctor, could you please explain polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and infertility and hormonal problem in adolescents?
Okay, thank you for that question again. So PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome is a condition seen in reproductive age group females. Usually it starts in the adolescent period, but it can occur at any stage of a woman's life. Before we know about PCOS, we should understand that again, polycystic ovaries can be only seen on scan, but sometimes there may be some symptoms also. One of the main symptoms of polycystic ovary is weight gain, hair loss, and as we already told, diabetes can be one of the part of this. But I am finding people coming with infertility also. As an endocrinologist, when a girl comes to us with PCOS, we just check whether the person is planning for a conception, of course, after marriage. So when we go for that, we do ultrasound scan and check whether the endometrium is showing increased thickness or not. It is called endometrial hyperplasia. When thickness is very high and the appearance is showing polycystic ovary, we also should do the blood test. Mainly, as I already told, thyroid again can produce polycystic ovary syndrome. Some hormones like prolactin, testosterone, SHBG, cortisol, based on the profile we know. So not every test is required. So every woman is different. Every PCOS also is different. Some women complained of hirsutism or increased hair growth on the face, abnormal unwanted hair growth. So that means the person is concerned. That also needs to be given proper treatment, ideally cosmetic plus hormonal therapy. And finally, as I already told, infertility can lead to a lot of problems. So we need to work with a team of endocrinologist, gynecologist, infertility specialist. Not to forget, the patient is the center of everything. So as you asked the question, last conclusion would be PCOS is a very common endocrine condition affecting the reproductive age group women, and it is multidisciplinary approach. Many hormones have to be given sometimes, but with the patient's clinical condition into perspective.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much. Doctor, could you please explain growth hormone issues and short stature in children? Also the vitamin D.
So that's again another relevant question. We all know a child has to grow, and the main phase of the growth is in the infancy and childhood. So growth hormone is a hormone produced by the pituitary. Pituitary is a gland located in the brain, and it produces many other hormones other than growth hormone. So growth hormone is produced during sleep, and whenever the child is growing, there is increased demand for growth hormone. So when we identify a child not growing as per the growth chart, we always plot a growth chart according to the child's potential. The father and mother's height are taken, and we measure the target height, or what the height the child is expected to gain at the age of 15 years. So female and male are different in that way. The female growth chart is different color also. So whenever the doctor gives you a growth chart, you are supposed to keep it in your records and bring it for every follow-up. So when the growth is not coming to expectations, we always ask the person to do a bone age. Bone age will show you the maturation of the bone cartilage. And in this way, the endocrinologist or the pediatrician can identify which amount of bone is not coming into the range. And also, we have to correlate with thyroid hormone, pituitary hormones, and also the sex hormones. So when adolescent person is growing, we also have increased demand for energy. It is called puberty. And puberty again is different in male and female. Females mature earlier than the males. And for females, the first sign will be breast development. After breast development, they usually go into the menses problem. And when menses is also started, it finally goes into the short. So the child actually finishes growth by the age of 12 years to 14 years in females, whereas males can grow up to the age of 15 to 20 years. So which is why we need to make sure the growth hormone level is normal. Not every child requires to get growth hormone tested. We can do another test called IGF-1 or insulin-like growth factor 1, which will identify which child will come into the short stature. So why I'm spending so much time in this question is because there is a misconception that giving growth hormone can increase the height in every age. The truth is that we have to check the growth chart. We have to plot the growth chart correctly and check for the growth velocity. After growth chart, then go for the bone age. When the bone age is not proper, then we go for the hormones. The systematic management. So we don't check everything in one day. It's a follow-up process. So when we start growth hormone, it is again costly. It is always daily injection, and it requires a lot of management troubles also. So when endocrinologist suggests you can go to growth hormone, you explain the patient what is the parents also, what is the growth hormone, how to take it, and finally, and when you finishes the height, we should stop it also. And regarding vitamin D, the second part of the question, as we know, the bone age again requires the vitamin D also. Vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. It is produced by the skin. It is going to the liver and finally again going by the kidneys also. It is produced in a manner from the morning 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. sunlight. And it is very less in the diet, which is why we need to sometimes give vitamin D externally. I know in UAE and other places, the temperature is also high. They don't go outdoors. The children also sometimes may not play in that time, which is why we need to check the vitamin D. It is known as 25-hydroxy vitamin D or cholecalciferol. We sometimes have to give vitamin D supplementation, not like what we are giving in the COVID time. It is a different dose. And again, it is for a follow-up time also. We don't give it for lifetime. So vitamin D, the symptoms are fatigue, tiredness, muscle cramps, and not gaining enough height. And there also can be a condition called rickets. So these are all conditions occurring in children, but sometimes adults can also have a condition called osteomalacia.
Doctor, our last question is COVID-19 and endocrine system involvement. Could you please explain?
Yes. So what about COVID-19? It is a virus infection and it is initially thought to be a novel coronavirus. Now it has got mutations also. COVID-19 is a pandemic. It is spread across continents and various studies have also come that endocrine involvement is also there in COVID-19. There is a condition called new onset of diabetes, which is produced after the infection. It is sometimes seen after steroids. It is also sometimes known that thyroid problems are occurring when the person is in the ICU. So there are various ways in which the virus infects and invades the endocrine cells. The major mechanism is by entry via the ACE2 receptor. ACE2 receptor is present in every cell in the body, and thyroid is the very vascular organ. So once the receptor ACE2 is affected, it produces a disturbance in the immunity. And ultimately, there is a condition called thyroiditis. So firstly, it is cause new onset diabetes. Secondly, it can cause thyroiditis. And thirdly, there are various other conditions which are producing because of the adrenal insufficiency. The stress of the hormones sometimes doesn't be able to compensate, which is why we need to check whether cortisol is also okay. So basically, there are three ways in which the body defends the infection. One is by producing natural immunity. Secondly, we try to give the body immunity by vitamins and other supplements. Thirdly, the immunity via vaccination. So now after vaccination, there are various improvements in the various ways in which COVID-19 is treated also. So in a nutshell, COVID-19 is a very huge viral infection. It can affect every cell. Just like that, when we have endocrine cells infected, it can involve every organ also. So that is why when we have a COVID-19 infection, always check the glucose levels by glucometer. Always measure thyroid when the tiredness is persisting after 2 weeks. And finally, when you know that COVID-19 is a long duration, we also have to know whether the steroid hormone levels is okay as well. I would like to conclude on the note that when we have an affected family member with COVID-19, we should observe vigilance. By vigilance, we mean we have to know whether our infection has not to come to other person. And finally, when we have an infection, we should make sure that when we are on steroids, we should stop it gradually. We should not stop it suddenly, because suddenly stopping a steroid can cause a condition called adrenal insufficiency, which needs to be managed by endocrinologist. So when we have dehydration, tiredness, high glucose levels, low thyroid levels, and low cortisol levels, these are all part of the particular syndrome caused by COVID-19, and this needs to be recognized and properly managed. And reach out to your friendly neighborhood endocrinologist who will be able to guide you. And don't go by the misconceptions that steroids are harmful. Steroids are always beneficial when used in the right quantity and for the right duration. And finally, when you have an infection, try to make sure you recover healthy and you get vaccinated once your turn comes, because vaccination can improve the quality of life when you have a reinfection.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me in this program, Doctors In. And it is a very good initiative by MedBiz channel. And initiatives like this are very important because increasing the patient awareness is always beneficial for society, because the difference between the doctor and the patient is only the difference in the knowledge, and we can bridge that knowledge by partnerships only. And whenever you have a disease which is like endocrine disease, it should be managed by experts. So endocrinologist, definitely a very important branch. We always have to remember that hormones are not simply measured, they are the standard measurements and in the right manner of measurement. You should not go by a local values, always a special test. So it needs special preparation, and ask a doctor whenever you have symptoms whether you have to check for the hormone levels. Don't go by just by executive checkup or simple lab test. And also I have to add that diabetes management is also requiring a test called HbA1c. HbA1c is a test for diabetes control. It is showing the 3 monthly average of the glucose measurement. On this note, I would like to conclude. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, doctor, for your valuable time with us today. We hope this information will help our viewers to get to know more about endocrinology and treatments. Thanks once again. Stay safe.